What up, nerds? Bujo Head Jody here. I have been bullet journaling since 2017, and I would like to share my February 2021 spreads with you. We're going to do our monthlies, if you're ready. Something I thought about doing for January is doing sort of like a 1920s sort of aesthetic. I also was thinking about trying to incorporate the Pantone color of the year, which are two colors this year, apparently. It's like a gray and a light yellow. So we're going to go with some yellows and some grays. So we've got this fun border that we're going to do. It consists of 3 different lines, and one of these I want to do a curve here. So I was thinking about using this to make a quarter circle, but there wasn't a circle on that template that was big enough. So I just free-handed that a little bit. So I'm just erasing the lines here before I put down my mild liners, so that if I draw over that pencil, it's going to stay. So especially for this very first spread, I was trying to be really careful and erase everything underneath before I put my lines down. But one problem with this is, part of the reason to sketch it out is so you know exactly where it goes. So if you erase, sometimes it's tough to tell where your lines are gonna go. So that's why I'm erasing kind of smaller portions of what I have sketched out before I move on. Later on, I've kind of developed a system for this, so I don't need to do this sort of, back and forth. But especially for this cover page here, the pattern is a little bit more complicated, so I had to be a little careful. Just make sure I knew how the spacing was going to end up. Yeah, so I've got this yellow, and then the lighter gray, and it is a darker gray. It's got kind of a interesting, I don't know, purple or plum kind of look to it, but I think it went well with the other 2 colors. So and I was actually able to find some good complements within my colored pens that I just got, so we're gonna incorporate some of those as well. Now I did think about using the pens to draw in all these lines, but I did want to incorporate both types of drawing implements, just to sort of, so I wasn't, being strictly using pens. So we're going to be using both, hopefully. So we've got this light gray here. I really actually like this one. I was contemplating using it in some of my yearly spreads because it's like it's very light. It's so light it kind of looks like pencil, but it is a pen. So that's really nice. And I've got this darker gray. I'm actually only going to be using these two pens on this spread, even when I'm filling them in. So my normal black pen, my black fine liner, I've decided to not use, which so far has been interesting. It's definitely, it's pretty, you know, I'm not sure how functional it's going to be. Things may be too light. So that's my cover page. Fill in these, little extra yellow to it. Really, I like how this looks, and it's interesting because the concept of this sort of very geometric border is very ordered, and I found it interesting that I don't know, just using the mild liners, like a marker is just very, it's not so precise. And so it had a very hand-drawn feeling too, which is kind of in opposition to the idea of this very strict geometric pattern. But I do like it. I think the one part of this, actually all of these spreads, that wasn't quite, I knew it was, I just had to squeeze it in somewhere, was that box right there at the top, which is my the box for the overall difference in, you know, all my financial spreads. I could not, I thought about maybe putting it on my cover page like I did in January, but you know, it just barely fit at the top there, so we're just gonna go with it. So if you see, I have put a dot there for where the main 3 boxes are gonna go on this page. This is my, you know, financial summary pages. So this same border, I'm going to use this pretty much throughout. This is sort of the main, you know, decoration that I'm using throughout all of the spreads for February, actually, not just the monthly ones. But yeah, so as soon as I define where that corner is, I can then draw this lighter gray around it. And then I can go in with the yellow. Now if you see the dot in the center there, the gray is actually 1 dot away from that, so it just makes a box around that corner. And then the yellow border, I skip 1 dot away from the gray, and that's where I start that curve. You'll see here, it even works if it's a little bit smaller, because you can just go backwards. That's the, you know, shortest box that you can make with this kind of pattern. And then you just fill in this darker line here. And this is a pattern that you could use and make it all one color. And I think it would look really cool. I just liked using the different colors because that was going to be my theme. But I bet this would look real good in sort of a black and white. So the first box, those are my assets. If you've seen any of my previous monthlies, you know that checking accounts, savings accounts, my cash. I don't have a lot of cash, but I keep track of it. And then the second box is for my debts, which are all my credit cards that I pay off every month. And then the final box is for my targets, for my budget for the month, and then the hours that I would like to work at my regular job. So we're done with that. Now, one thing that did not work for me last month was I had made some trackers, and I put them right before the weekly started. And those were something I had to reference every day because I was putting in what I had done, what I was going to do, what my plans were, and it was kind of hard to go and find those spreads. So I've decided to put them on this page, which is right after the first two spreads, so that it'll be a little bit easier to flip to. I'm also adding a couple different trackers for this because I have sort of started on a process to add a couple more habits to my daily routine. I did miss the corner of those two, but because I knew it was only one away from the other one, I was able to recreate it without too much problem. So, that top box is going to be my running schedule, so my running tracker, which is very similar. Oh no, I have messed up, and I have learned from previous spreads that the paint pen is a little too much for this paper. So this is my jelly roll, and that seems to work great. So I'm really happy that I figured that out. Not happy I messed up, but always good to have a backup plan. So that top spread there is, again, the running spread, so and general workout spreads, that kind of stuff. So what I'm going to be doing every day, how far, for how long, that kind of stuff. The second spread is going to be sort of a general habits. It's sort of more of like a, okay, do this, did I do it? Then yes, check that off. Because it is February and we have exactly 28 days, it splits up real nice into 2 rows. So each of those habits can have 2 rows with 14 little boxes each that I'm going to hopefully fill out. And then the last spread is I have caved and made myself some more fixing. Go away, jelly roll. I have caved, and in that last little box, I have a YouTube spread. I gotta confess, I don't like it when people who post their things on YouTube have this spread, because it doesn't apply to anyone else. It doesn't, but that's the nature of the game, so I needed something to sort of keep track of each step, because sometimes I have multiple videos being edited at the same time and I'm lazy and I don't want to do the voiceover until like a month later. December. So yeah, you can see some of the details here that I'm putting in for my workout spread. As I said before in my yearly video, Tuesday, Thursday, and Sundays have a larger space because that's when I run and I need to put more complicated details in there. So yeah, on that top one, it's just the days of the week. The second one, I've written down habit and completed. And then for the YouTube spread, it is, let's see, what did I write? Video, filmed, edited, just sort of basically, voiceover, music, I think export and then upload. So just sort of my basic steps. It's a lot more in there. And then this whole big page will be for my hours working my regular job. I'm going back to the original spread. I've switched something out, which we'll see. But in general, the setup that I had last time was fine. I kind of liked it more in the middle of the month than at the very end. At the very end, I was like very lost about like, okay, like how much have I worked? Do I need to work more? Should I, put more hours in? But and it also doesn't help that I haven't completely done the calculations for the taxes yet, so I know about how much I'm going to be making, but I wouldn't be able to actually fill something like this spread in where I do, if not the totally correct calculation, I do the rough calculation. So for this, things I'll fill out are the date. I'm going to put down a target, which is something that I had in my January spread. And then the amount, so the hours, and the total, and then income, which will be the calculation. I used to also include the increase, which was like basically this is what I made today, because this was, the difference between if the month ended the day before, this is how much more I would have, or how much less I would have made. So hopefully that made sense. It's definitely, that is a spread I will be coming back to see if I can tweak that, what's effective, what's not. I am glad that I gave myself a full page for that, because it's definitely, I'm working a whole month, so it's gonna take a lot of space, and I really crammed myself in to like half a page last month. So speaking of giving myself enough space, I am once again taking up 2 full pages for my transaction logs. I did this last month and I didn't even touch the second page. But you know what? I was glad I had it, so I wasn't worried about fitting everything in. So we're just gonna throw the border onto these 2 pages and basically make 2 of the same spread. I'm pretty happy with how it's been going. Functional. I fill it out. It works. I do use an app to keep, more detailed track of things. So I use this as a sanity check, just to make sure everything's lining up. I do track every penny. And I know exactly what account these are all going into. So I've got my date, amount, account, total, the description, and whether or not I've counted in my budget. And my budget is basically everything except my rent, everything going out anyway. So yeah. So 2 pages, simple, clean, very nice. And then the last 2 spreads for my February monthly is the calendar. Now this is definitely the spreads that I look at the least, I think. But I think I've mentioned in a previous video that I'm going to try to not fill in my weeklies from my monthly until it's the week of. So I'm much more reminded of, what is going on that week. And that's so that my monthlies are more, more functional, more of a repository for information, than just, something I set up and then never look at again because I just use my weeklies. Although, I thought maybe in the future, no monthly calendar at all, just weeklies, pre-filled in. That's an interesting thing to think of. So, the first large box here on the top there is going to be my now box. I've got my now and later boxes, basically things that are happening this month, and then later is things that I need to remember for next month. Mostly I'll put bills that are going to be due at the beginning of the next month that I have gotten, my notification for exactly how much that is at the end of the previous month. So that is the later box. And then the large box right there, that is the calendar. And I gotta love this February. I start all my weeks on a Monday, and this year it fits perfectly. It is exactly 4 weeks, and it fits in this nice little rectangle. It is very satisfying. So we're gonna outline these with the fun border. Now, I have talked about using this, just dragging the pen towards you technique to get a straight line. But especially with these marker type writing implements, it's not as important. The best technique is actually to just lock your wrist and drag your whole arm. So it doesn't necessarily need to be towards you. It can be, sideways. So we've got our now box and our later box. And then we're gonna label the days of the week. Now you'll notice, and obviously I've been doing this throughout the rest of the spreads, but I am using these little crosses to denote separation, which is something that I did in, I think, December of 2020. And I very deliberately said that putting the numbers at the bottom of these boxes was a mistake because it was very confusing as to which day they were associated with. So this month I decided to put the dates on the left-hand side. And I'm also writing them out, which is very funny because it's, it's obviously very short in the beginning of the month and just gets longer and longer and longer. I managed to fit it all in, but it's definitely an interesting contrast. And they're not all perfect because I'm writing them vertically like this, so some of the letters of the numbers drift a little bit. They go a little wonky. But I kind of like it. I do like using this lighter pen. Thinking maybe in future spreads I'll do something like this, but as like a background. So it'd be like a giant number, and then I can write a darker pen over it. But yeah. "28." It's a very long word. I'll actually show you. So there's like 1 and 2, and then the 27 and the 28 are very, very long. And then we can't forget this header, which actually was very annoying to draw out, just because of where it was placed and because I'm right-handed. So I am glad that I drew it out beforehand. I will leave a link to where I found this font. I wanted something super stylized that I could include, and I didn't get to use it a lot, but I do like where I did use it. So we're just gonna throw this yellow in. And that is it. Calendar spread, transactions, trackers, financial totals, and what I forgot to show you, in January, you'll see the little green flag, that's the January, putting some washi tape in so I can find the beginning of this month. And that's it. Thanks a lot.